So this will be Jacob, Great Expectations, Part 3. And I'm going to give you a verse. I don't know why, because we ain't even going to get there today. But I'm hoping that it'll set the scene for where we're headed. So this is Genesis 32, verses 30 and 31. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. And as he passed over Peniel, the sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. So you got this dramatic picture here. It's dawn, the sun is rising, spring day. We're going to go over this again. He's wading back across the brook, dragging his leg behind him. He's limping. And he's going to be limping the rest of his life. Now, I got to back up here because we've got to figure out how in the world he got there. And when we started this, we read some verses. And I'm just going to kind of go back there because we read, Jacob just saw the ladder. And then the angels and all that. And then in chapter 29, verse 1, and Jacob went on his journey. So he's on this journey. So I got to ask, what's going on with Jacob? And I've told you this whole story of Jacob has to do with blessing and birthright. We can't lose that picture. And we so water down those words today. I just want to be flat honest with you. I seen a guy standing up here at the red light. He's got a sign, if you would help me out a little bit, it would be a real blessing. And that's common language for people. You know why that is? Because we got no idea what the blessing is. Now, I'm telling you, if you understand what this blessing is, or who it is, you'll be like Jacob. Jacob knew. So if I can go up there and bless this guy with $20, then what's my blessing? The blessing's $20. Yeah. So if I give $5, I blessed him $5 worth, and you give $100, you blessed him $100 worth. So blessing is all in money. Now, Paul never talked about that at all in the New Covenant. And he says, you know what, guys? You're already blessed with all spiritual blessings. Wait a minute, Paul. I don't have a sign and nobody gave me any money. But see, in the church world today, it's equated to things and stuff. So that's why it's very important for us to go look at the story of Jacob and understand what the blessing is, or who the blessing is, what the blessing really means. And I'm just going to sum this up for you right now so you're not on pins and needles. The blessing is the presence of God. The presence of God with you. And that's in the Holy Spirit. And that's why he said, I will never leave you. So his presence never, ever, ever leaves you. Even when you don't feel like it, even when it don't look like it, his presence never leaves you. And no matter how fast you can run away from it, and I'm going to tell you what, you guys can run pretty fast, because I know I'm pretty fast. And I have run away from the blessing of God. But you know what? Like a coon hound, and I've coon hunted before, it'll hunt you down. It ain't really hard, because he never left you anyway.
That's right.
It ain't like, I got to go seek and find him. That's from our viewpoint, I almost think it's so silly. I think of kids playing hide and go seek. And it would be like me standing here saying, I can't see you. Where are you? I'm going to come and find you. That's kind of what we do when we open our eyes and the Lord is there. Because that's what Paul prayed, wasn't it? Lord, open their eyes. So I'm like, God, I don't see God anywhere. He's not here. What do you mean? That's blessing. Blessing and so Jacob was wanting the covenant blessing, not just it's covenant blessing. Jacob craved that blessing. He lusted after it. And the bad thing about it was, according to birth, according to family and tradition, he wasn't supposed to get it. He's supposed to go the firstborn. But even old Jacob, I mean, it seemed like when he was coming out of the womb, he had grabbed a hold of Esau's heel, just like, hang on, Esau, that's mine. That's why he got the name Jacob. I guess my Hebrew name would be hungry. Or chocolate.
Chocolate.
Yeah. So all through Jacob's life, he's characterized as grabbing what he wants the most. He's grabbing after the blessing. That's why he tried to buy it off his brother. That's why he cheated his blind dad. I don't know how you look at these Bible characters here. I would used to read these stories, and I would see this stuff in there, talk to people about it, and it was almost like this was God ordained. So then I would shy away from it. I would read it, and I would think, Jacob, man, he's a lying dude. I don't know if I want Jacob around. You understand? But people, oh no, it's all God ordained. But now I know I have that freedom. I can look in there and I can see there's some mighty, and it helps me when I understand these characters in there are full of flaws as I am.
Yeah.
So it helps me when I read about them. I'm like, oh, he was scared to death, and like, yeah, I know what you mean. So Jacob had a big problem in his life here. It wasn't lusting after God. God never fussed at him for that. His trouble was, we've been talking about this now 3 weeks, he didn't have faith. He didn't have faith. And see, when I read this, I know in my own life. And see, when you're a church person, man, ain't nobody supposed to tell you ain't got faith. That's a slap in the face. But as I begin to live this thing, I realize the difference between my faith and the faith of God. Do you understand what I'm saying? I start to realize the difference. And what I was calling faith, I find out, man, that wasn't faith. That wasn't faith. Jacob's trying to buy what alone God can give. And you don't realize how much that we try to do that. Guys, do you know that I sat there in my mind, and I told you I live these things, so I'm just sharing them with you. I know I got to pick the pace up or I'll never get through all this stuff, but I start thinking, okay, we got a church, I'm the pastor, and here's what we're going to do. So I'm going to really, really bring the best lessons in the whole world, and then God's going to bless it, and then all this other stuff. Then you hit the ground running. And after about a year, the Lord says, oh yeah, you tired yet? Yeah, I'm really, really tired. Well, you're pretty stout. Let's give you a few more years. And you're running, and you feel like you're running in quicksand, running in mud. Because really you don't know how deep it is that you're trying to buy something off of the Lord. I mean, how can the Lord bless you if you don't read your Bible? How can the Lord bless you if you don't go to church? You see what I mean? And come to find out, you're already blessed. You understand what I'm saying? You're already blessed. His presence is with you. But Jacob had the same trouble. He's trying to get from God what only love can give. And that was old covenant. Guys, love has done gave it.
Yes.
I mean, God had already given to Jacob before Jacob's even born. And you know what? God's already given to you before you was even born. But yet we struggle for it. Trying to get God's acceptance, trying to please God, trying to serve Him, trying to do all of the things that we do, trying to buy, trying to earn from God. So here is Jacob, he leaves out on this journey. He comes to a place called Luz. This is where we were last week. Lays his head on a stone. Remember, he's weary, he's tired, he's exhausted. He's come to the end of his resources, at least till now. For a while, anyway. We'll see they come back. All he's got in his hand is a staff, a walking stick they used. He's on his long journey north. He's fleeing from his brother Esau, leaving behind a family, a mess and a family full of strife and confusion. Remember, he said called his mom, Rebecca, to lie to her husband. I'm telling you what, if you got a relationship and husbands lying or wives lying to husbands, that's controversy. You don't get over people lying to you real quick, especially your wife. You know what I mean? We just read the story, but get it. You know? Patty starts lying to Oakley, you just don't recover from that real fast. Then you're like, well, what else is a lie? Esau, brother, and Esau and Jacob, brothers, one of the brothers says, I'm going to kill my other brother. There's controversy in this family, guys. Face it. Jacob had enough gall to go in and lie to his dad. Jacob, he's lied to Isaac. Isaac's thinking, what kind of kids have I raised here? Esau running around with these Hittite women. Jacob in here tricking me, lying to me, wife lying to me. Esau going to kill Jacob. Hey, it's time for a Thanksgiving dinner. You with me? Invite the family over, right? There's a mess in this family. I read that and I say, what a family. See, and I can relate. So here's Jacob. He's exhausted. He's not used to being outdoors. He takes this stone for a pillow. He goes to sleep. Now, Jacob's about 40 years old. I'm going to tell you some things here in a minute. It's going to blow your mind. Jacob's about 40 years old when he's making this stone for his pillow. Goes to sleep, and he sees this ladder. We talked about that last week, between heaven and earth. And there, God gives Jacob the covenant blessing. All the struggles that Jacob had all the struggles that he's been through, and God just blesses him with it. It's a covenant blessing. And Jacob looks and he sees the angels ascending and descending. He sees access into the heart of God. But listen, that's only one way. Access into the heart of God. He also sees them descending, meaning God is coming down to be in you. Get what I'm saying here. God has descended into the person of Jesus, now in the Holy Spirit, and has come down to be in you. Not only brought you into Him, but Him into you. He saw it. Now Jacob is beginning to exercise some faith here. He's beginning to understand. See, true faith is not making God do what you want Him to do, because that's why we have prayer chains. Gosh, if we can get enough, we can hold God's feet to the fire. Right? There's enough of us here wishing this would be a good idea. We sign a petition. Now, God, you need to do it. We've got faith. That's not faith. That's human faith. I would go as long to say that's witchcraft. That's manipulation. We're trying to manipulate God. If that was the case, God, you know what? If that was the case, you know what we're really saying? We're saying God is withholding blessing from you. That's what we would really be saying. If we got to get enough people together for God to do something, then the devil, who we say is a liar, was right. And because he said, all God is, He's withholding from you. You understand what I'm saying? But that's how it's presented to us. And it looks good and it looks spiritual. It's humanism is what it is. Faith, according to the world, means an exercise, an excursion of yourself. It means I'm saying I'm going to do it. Biblical faith is total opposite. Biblical faith means I submit myself to God. I'm abandoned to Him. It means I know that I'm helpless here. I know that God is my strength, and I respond helpless to Him and His Word, and I rest there. That's the essence of faith. That's why faith is so hard for me, guys. Because the first thing I do in a situation is try to reason it out. Well, this is just how I function, guys. I see the situation. If we do this, if we do this. And you know what? God will be with me as I make a mess of it until I come around into faith, realizing I'm helpless here. That's why it's so hard. That's why it's not popular. Because, I mean, you know, I would rather be, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Well, you pull them out of context, what it sounds like. It's like, I went over to the throne of grace, and I got me some Jesus strength, and now I'm coming over here, and I'm going to take it. Thank you, Jesus, for your strength. And I'm coming over here. And that's the picture that we get. But it's not that way. It's not that way, because you know what happened when I went over here and got me some Jesus strength and went over there? Jesus over there, it means there's separation. Separation is death. So we're still preaching a separation. Jesus is my strength in the situation. And I can do all things through Him because I'm helpless to do it. And I'm saying, Jesus, here. So, and you know, I'm learning. I wish I could tell you I have learned. I want to get to that place where I've learned. I'm still learning to rest in Him, because and you know what? You know how, and this is why I tell you, and I encourage you to go back to those lessons on Wednesday night, how to hear the voice of God. Because how long do we stay in anxiety and worry? And I'm telling you, none of that is of faith. Because in resting, you know, I got this little Fitbit on, and this thing will keep track of your sleep. And it'll come up in your sleep and it'll say, 3 times restless. You know what I mean? So I'm resting, but I'm restless in my sleep. And then sometimes, man, this thing will come up and say 19 times restless. Only slept 4 hours. You understand? And I'm thinking, man, I feel tired today. Well, you only slept 4 hours, and 19 of that you're just kicking and thrashing. So I'm not resting. I'm thinking I'm resting. Oh, I rested good. No, you didn't. So in our Christian walk, we think we're resting because we get so used to 4 hours of restless sleep. That, you understand? And you know what will happen? You'll go to total exhaustion. That's what Jacob did. That's how Jacob slept on the pillow. Total exhaustion. In other words, his brain was empty. He wasn't worried about nothing, and God could work His way into Jacob's mind and show him the vision. And you know what I end up doing most of my time? Working to exhaustion. There's a rest left unto the people of God, you and me, who I don't have to do that. So I find myself, when I'm all restless and all this other anxiety, what are you doing here? Where's your faith? So I learn these lessons, and I go back, and sometimes I laugh at myself, and I think, you idiot. You stupid idiot. I don't know if you guys ever call yourself names, but I do. You stupid idiot. What are you doing? How much longer? You know, I'm thinking, how long, oh Lord, where you at, where you at? And the Lord says, I'm right here the whole time. I was the one playing the stupid games. Where you at, Lord? Where you at? I mean, that's what faith is. Faith is what? Ceasing from your own labors. Ceasing from your own activities. That's all that reasoning, all that, my strength. And when I do them in my strength, I celebrate them in my strength. You know, I could go up and say, look, I built a church. You know, I heard a guy the other day said, I have baptized 482 people into the kingdom of God. Well, hallelujah. You've went out and attempted to drown 482 people. Because you haven't done anything. You understand what I'm saying?
That's the Lord's work.
And I mean, and that's what happens. That's what happens. We do it in our own strength. And sometimes people's strength will carry them all the way to the grave. It really will. Faith rests helplessly in His strength. Says, I can, He can. It sounds simple to say it. I know it does, but man has got an incredible, incredible resource of his own strength. We all do. We have an incredible resource of our own strength. We believe in our own strength. We got so much expectation in our own self. Have you ever said this? Have you ever went into a situation, just testing you here, Went into a situation and flat blew it. Fell flat on your face. Made a mess of it. What do? Oh, God, forgive me. Next time, I'll do better. Yeah. You ever said that? I'll do better next time. And you know what? Next time, God, I'm going to learn my lesson, and I'm going to go through it in my strength again. Listen, the first time you went through it in your strength, and you made a mess of it. So the next time, through the lie, through our stupid understanding, we think, I learned my lesson, I'll do better next time. Well, you know what happens the next time? It's worse. You do it again. I don't know if you guys have ever done it, but I have over and over and over. And I think, next time, God, I'll do better. You know what I'm doing? I'm living out of my own strength and my own faith. Finally, I got to go into the situation, no matter how difficult or how easy, and say, I don't know. Except you strengthen me, except you be my strength, I'm lost. Not even going to attempt to do anything. That's faith. You understand? I mean, how many times have I said, God, if you give me one more chance, I'll show you I can do it. I'm capable. I'll do better. Because that's what we do with our own parents, ain't it? We mess up. Oh, I'll do better. I'll do better. And guys, that's the American way. I mean, we got to show God how much we love Him. I mean, come on, after all. How many times have you heard this? After all He's done for you, the least you could do is come to church on Sunday mornings. I mean, good Lord. Least you can do is fill the money thing up. I mean, come on, after all God's done for you, you got to. So I show Him in my strength. And, as soon as you come into the church, well, look here. I mean, here's what we do to show God how much we love Him. We serve Him. I thought it kind of funny. I had to stop by Walmart's last night. I won't tell you who it was, but I'm walking down through there, and I see these little kids running around with candy. I'm thinking, oh, well, it's close to Halloween. And I hear a lady say, ask him if he wants a piece. Well, one of them had a Reese cup, one of them had some Skittles. You know me. I want the Reese cup. Well, the little girl had the Reese cup, and the little boy had the Skittles. Well, the little boy's faster. So he gets to me first. I'm thinking, man, I should have tricked you. I could have got the Reese cup. But no. Little brother's got to outrun big sister. So he runs up and sir, you want one of these? Not really. I want the Reese cup. But yeah, I'll take the Skittles. So he gives me a pack of Skittles. But then with it was a little card for church. And their service times. You know what I mean? So they're giving out all this stuff. I'm thinking, you little hornswogglers, just give me the Reese cup. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. That's what I'm thinking. But I mean, that's what people do. They run around, and so now I've been with people who come and do this, but now we're putting the kids up to the task. Yeah. We got to go show everybody our church, and here's our card, and if you want the Reese cup, I'm thinking, come on. Obviously, I didn't look like a preacher. They wouldn't have came up to me. I told you I didn't. They would have said, oh, no, thou art a thus preacher. But no, he looks like a stupid idiot. Let's go get him. So I told you, I mean, they wasn't getting everybody, just the weird-looking people. So here I am walking around. Yeah, boy, he looks like he needs salvation. Okay, yeah. That's what I'm talking about here. So we think we know what God is talking about, and we don't know what God is talking about. See, Jacob, he's heard the blessing. He saw the angels. And sometimes we hear the voice of God, and we think, God, we know what He's talking about. God has spoke. And sometimes God will speak in plain English, and you get it. But you don't get it. And He says, now I'm going to show you what I really meant. I'm going to show you what I really meant. I mean, you've heard, you quoted the scriptures, not I, but Christ. God said, well, that's good. I'm glad you got it. But I'm going to show you really what the I is. And then I'm going to show you what the Christ is. And man, and this might take 20 years. Okay? It might take 20 years. So it's not a second blessing, a third blessing, a fourth blessing, or a 287th blessing. As we continually rediscover who we are, and we're rediscovering God as our strength in all things. See, Jacob here, it's not all over for Jacob, but in one sense it is all over for Jacob. He's committed. Jacob is committed. I'll be your God, or you'll be my God, and I'll be your people. He's committed. Okay, you remember we were talking about them lessons about commitment and all of that? Now Jacob is committed. He's got the blessing, and you think like, okay, you got it. Let's go build a church. I've got the blessing. Let's go build a church. I mean, just hold on, Jacob. There's a lot of journey here. We've got a lot more journey. Well, I've got to show you what I really meant. So Jacob's on his journey. He's got to discover what all this means. So Jacob, you remember that's where we started out. So Jacob, in chapter 29, verse 1, Jacob went on his journey. He's going to a place called Padan Aram. Padan Aram. Which is to the far north. And it's by the river Euphrates. I'm gonna draw you a map here in my mind. I've got a map in my Bible, but just say it this way. Of course, you'll be looking at it backwards, so I do it this way. Right here would be Bethel, where he was just at. Okay, you would have the River Jordan coming down through here. Over here, you would have the Persian Gulf. Okay, and the River Euphrates would come up this way. Okay? Padan Aram would be up here, right off of the River Euphrates. Over here, where the River Euphrates went into the Persian Gulf, would have been the Ur of the Chaldees. So Abraham was in the Ur of the Chaldees. He got called out. He goes up the river to Padan Aram, and then he comes down into the Promised Land. Okay, so Jacob has just left Bethel, and he's headed back up here to Padan Aram, to where his other folks was at. Does that make sense? In these journeys, Jacob's he's going to discover exactly what it means to come to the end of himself and total commitment to God. He's got to learn these things. And you know, we've told you what a family Jacob had. He's got Rebekah, his mom. She knew what she wanted. She's got the resources in herself to get it. Jacob, that's why he's always struggling with Esau. And I don't know, you got to congratulate Rebekah on her ingenuity. I mean, who would have thought to put on sheepskins or goat skins to go in? I mean, that was pretty clever. Pretty clever of Jacob to buy the birthright off of Esau for a bowl of soup. I mean, these guys, they got a lot of ingenuity. They can figure a lot of stuff out. This family knows how to manipulate to get what they want. So Jacob's headed back to Rebekah's family. He's headed back to Abraham's family. He's headed back to Padan Aram. Jacob's going to meet up with Rebekah's brother, Laban. Now, Rebekah, remember we're up here. Rebekah, see, that's where they had went, you know, to get Rebekah for Isaac. So Rebekah comes down, and she's lived, because Isaac never left the Promised Land. Okay? So Rebekah at least had the influence of Abraham and Isaac. Okay? But when Abraham went on his journey, remember God told him to leave all of his family? And he didn't. He took Terah, his father. Well, Terah followed Abraham, his son, all the way up to Padan Aram. Now remember, he's an idol worshiper. So Terah would have been great-grandpa of Laban. And all of them are settled up here. So you kind of got a mixture. They knew the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac, but they got all the gods of the Ur of the Chaldees, and they got them a whole mess up here. That's where Jacob's going. I don't know what you picture when you look at Laban in the Bible or Jacob, but if you think of Laban, think of Osama bin Laden, turban. I mean, these guys were Muslims. I mean, we see them in pictures and we always think, the white guys. It wasn't. These are Arabs with big beards and turbans and riding camels. They're Arabs. So when you think of Laban, I mean, I just think of this greedy car salesman that's going to do everything he can to get over on you. Take you for your last penny. Do anything he can to cheat you. Now this was Abraham's family. Now Laban, they named you after something that was, around something you did. Do you know what Laban's name means? Of course, it means white, but it was also the name of the moon god they worshipped. It was the name of the moon god. Moon's white, Laban. So it was called, and you can check me on this stuff. You can Google it and see. But it was called the cult of Sin, and they worshiped the moon god in Haran. And that's where Haran was, where Terah, his great-grandfather, settled. So Laban is a moon god worshiper. You remember what they worshiped down there in the Ur of Chaldees? So he's still a moon god worshiper. So he's got the God of Abraham on one side and the moon god. This is Laban. He's got all kinds of gods. Like a lot of people today, they want Jesus too. We'll add him to the collection. So from Bethel up here to Padan Aram is about 450 miles. Well, he couldn't take a plane. Couldn't get Uber to take him. He's got to walk or ride a camel. So he's on this long journey over rough country. Jacob, remember, he's about 40 years old, and he finally arrives up here to the well. Comes to the well. I'm just telling you a little bit of the story here because I'm trying to get you this picture. He comes to the well where all the sheep would be brought, and wells were popular. There wasn't a lot of wells, say it that way. Water was very precious. And this was a very deep well, and it had a stone on the top of it. And they would take 2 or 3 men to roll this stone away. What they would do, they would gather, and they would wait till all the flocks were there, and they would take the stone off and water all the flocks at once. So he gets there, and they're waiting on the others to get there, and that's why the stone is on the well. So Jacob, he looks at the people that are gathered around there, and he says, "You guys ever heard of a man named Laban? Ever heard of Laban around here?" "No, sure, yeah, we've heard of Laban, yeah. Yeah, we know him quite well. As a matter of fact, his daughter's on the way right now to bring his flocks up here to water." Sure enough, he looks out, here comes Rachel, bringing a flock of sheep. And she's shepherding the sheep. I got to ask you a question. Bet you never asked this question. How old do you think Rachel was? Because you get in this mind, if Jacob's 40 years old, she's got to be 38. Well, see, this is how little we know of Eastern culture. She couldn't have been more than 12 years old. See, in those days, it was a general rule that a child was not considered a woman until puberty, which is probably about 12 years old. Once a girl hit puberty, she was considered a woman, and now she wasn't allowed out of the house on her own. She had to go with her mother or other sisters. So there's no way, if she was over 12 years old, that they would have sent her out because she would be marrying age. No way they would have sent her out on her own. You understand what I'm saying? So she couldn't have been no more than 12 years old, probably around 10. I don't know if you ever think about them things, but it's interesting. Here's a 40-year-old guy, Jacob. Here's a 10-year-old. Jacob sees her. And in those days, they married close relationships. They married cousins and all that. She shows up. Jacob sees her. He decides that he's going to water the flock. I mean, Jacob's a strong guy. He's in his own strength. He goes up there and he rolls the stone away on his own. And he personally waters the flock of Laban, which was shepherded by the 10-year-old Rachel. Then he grabs a hold of her. She don't know what in the world's going on. She don't know who he is. He's a complete stranger. He grabs a hold of her, hugs her, kisses her. Then he sits down and cries like a baby. She probably thinks, who is this weirdo? I mean, imagine that. Here's a 10-year-old, a 40-year-old guy comes up, grabs her up, hugs her up, kisses her, and then goes and sits down over here and cries like a baby. I don't know how y'all read the Bible, but I'm just telling you. I mean, I want to make this story come alive to you. This is what. So, I'm sure she thinks he's crazy. I mean, she wasn't looking like my knight in shining armor. Who is a smelly, sweaty hog that's hugging me and kissing me? Now he's crying like a baby. Get away from me. We got a few names we'd call him. Until he tells her, I'm a relative. I'm a near kinsman. And he tells her that. And then he says, go and tell Laban, go and tell your dad that I'm here. So she runs and she runs off ahead of him, you know, and she goes and tells him. Now her dad, she runs back and tells a story to Laban. Hey, this guy, our near kinsman, he showed up and he took the stone off by himself. He's thinking, man, this dude is stout. He's a family guy. It'd be good to have him around the farm because they're farmers. You know, you want somebody with some strength. Be good to have him around. So, I mean, there's a sucker born every day. So, he can do all of that. Plus, he watered the whole flock by himself. I mean, we need this guy on the farm. This would be great. So, Laban runs out to welcome Jacob with open arms. Yeah, you see what's going on here. Jacob stays a month. During that time, he gets to know the two daughters, Rachel, Leah. Leah was the oldest. Now remember how old? He stays a month. She couldn't have been no more than 12 years old. He stays a month. That's 30 days. Leah, bless her heart, she seems charming. She had a strong faith in God, but she had tender eyes. Were important to those people in those days because you know what you could see of a woman if you were a guy? Her eyes. That's it. And that had a veil on. And bless her heart, if you got ugly eyes, there's no hope for you. Now, Rachel, she had like deer's eyes. You go on and read the scripture. She had eyes like she had Bambi eyes. You know what I mean? She had Bambi eyes. Leah had alligator eyes. So Jacob falls in love with Rachel. Now, in those days, nothing's changed. You still got to pay for your woman. Y'all are laughing, but you do. It costs you money, don't it? It costs you a lot of money. You'll be paying for the rest of your life. That's what I wanted to get into this story. You got to pay for your woman. So he's got to work it out. So he goes to Laban, says, I'm in love with Rachel. He's 40 years old. She's 12. I want to marry her. To me, you know, we're getting shotguns out. Yeah. We're killing somebody. But in those days, it's like, well, you got to work for her for 7 years. It seemed good. To me, that says, what kind of character is Laban to let his 12-year-old daughter marry some 40-year-old? Hey, guys, I'm just telling you what's in the Bible. It seems like a bunch of weirdos to me. Crazy. So Jacob, he says, I'm going to pay 7 years dowry for this. Now, 17 or 7 years, so Rachel would probably be between 17 and 19 years old. Now, it's interesting in Hebrews 21, it talks about being a Hebrew slave. Now, the law hadn't come around yet, but a Hebrew slave worked for 6 years, and on the 7th year he could go out free. And it talked about his wife and married and all those other things. So Jacob becomes a slave. He becomes a Hebrew slave here to Laban. I love that, because I can read all of this in Philippians chapter 2. Jesus, who was rich, yet for our sake became poor. You know, here, I mean, it's type and shadow of Jesus, yet it's Jacob and his struggles and faith. I see so many pictures here. So here I see Jacob becoming a slave for the woman that he loves. Laban, you know, Laban's grinning in a year. I got 7 years free labor out of a guy as strong as an ox. This is awesome. So here comes the wedding. Now, a wedding in those days will last for 6 days, man. They partied down. Now, if you know, I just told you those women would be veiled. All you could see is their eyes, and they would be even veiled. So it was very plausible for Laban to trick Jacob like he did. They didn't court like people court now. Okay? So Laban tricked him. Sent him Leah. We didn't know, because he don't get her till nighttime. So it's dark, and he don't know. And Laban knew poor old Leah would never get a husband. Them alligator eyes. Jacob couldn't see who he's marrying. And it wasn't until the next morning in the light of day that he sees Leah. He's like, daggone, 7 years I've slaved for Rachel. And he goes out in a rage. He goes out in a rage to find Laban. I mean, what have you done to me? Laban says, oh, did you forget? I mean, in our custom here, you can't marry the older daughter off, or the younger daughter out before you marry the older one. I mean, I thought we discussed it. Didn't we discuss it? My bad. Thought we talked about it. I'm sorry. You know, you didn't read the fine print. I mean, can you see where Jacob has got himself into here? And Laban says, well, didn't you say that you wanted Rachel? Well, we can work out another deal. You work another 7 years and you can have her. I mean, I can just see Laban smiling from ear to ear. You know, can't you? I mean, you know, when I don't know how you read, but, you know, we talk about these pictures. You know what I get in my mind? You know who I picture Laban being? Ric Flair. Yeah, Ric Flair. I see Ric Flair, you know, and I don't know about you guys, but, you know, Ric Flair, he would always say he was the dirtiest player in the game, and when he would hit somebody with a low blow or hit him with a chair or something, I could just see Laban doing that. 7 more years, woo, 7 more years. That's the picture. That's how I read the Bible, guys. That's how I read the Bible, yeah. So I got this picture of Laban as Ric Flair. Woo! Just finish out your week with, and that's what he says, just finish out your week with Leah. You know, let's don't embarrass her during this wedding. And then you can marry Rachel. But it'll cost you another 7 years. Now, have you ever thought of Jacob? God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, man of faith. You ever thought about him marrying, falling in love with a 10-year-old? Hugging and kissing on a 10-year-old, and now he's got 2 wives? He's a polygamist? He couldn't be a member of most churches in the U.S. We ain't going to have nobody like Jacob in there kissing up on a 10-year-old. He's out of here. It's right here in your Bible. You understand what I'm saying? I know it's weird, because we don't understand how they think. Now, Jacob had a miserable life. he lived miserable. Why did he live miserable? He had 2 wives. Not 1, 2. And he had 2 concubines, 2 handmaids. Lord have mercy. All I can say is, Lord have mercy.
You're just jealous.
And listen, these women, y'all think all these are godly women. They were sisters. What do sisters do? Boy, y'all got out with that real quick. I don't know what y'all's family's like, but our sisters prayed together. Liar. Ruth Ann pulled my hair. Annette took my toy. She touched me. That's what I used to say. She's touching me. So he's, I mean, do you understand what's going on in the house here? Get this. We think of he's a great man of faith and he's walking around floating on the water. I mean, go into his house. The sisters are fighting because they want to please Jacob. So they're fighting and setting each other up and scratching and clawing. And I can just see Jacob sitting outside saying, what have I done? What have I done? Laban's laughing all the way to the bank because he's got 14 years of slave labor out of this big strong ox. And you see what's going on here? Jacob is banging in against Laban. Laban is banging in against him. Strength for strength. And Jacob was losing all the way. Laban wasn't losing. He realized that everything that daggone Jacob touches turned into gold. You remember the Ark of the Covenant goes in Obed-Edom's house and just everything? Well, he realizes, my gosh, everywhere Jacob goes, like Joseph was when in the prison. Everything he touches is just blessed. Man, this is awesome. But Jacob don't see it as awesome. Now, why did everything Jacob touched turn to gold? Because he was a covenant man. There was a covenant. In blessing, I'll bless. I mean, God blessed Jacob and he prospered Jacob, even though he wasn't getting anything out of it. So the blessing was just falling on Laban. He was being blessed. He was being blessed by Jacob even being there. 14 years go by. Jacob finally goes to Laban and he says, I've had enough. My time is up. I want to go home. I told my mother I'd only be gone for a few days. You can go read that back in Genesis 27, I believe in 44. Yes, she said, just go up there to my brother's house and stay a few days till Esau's wrath. He's there 14 stinking years and he couldn't text home. Yeah, I mean, you get this. He couldn't call home, no carrier pigeons. She's like, I thought he was going to be gone 3 or 4 days, and this cat is gone 14 years. Now, Laban, he's not dumb. He says, you know, Jacob, I've noticed that your God blesses you. I've noticed that. Which means if he blesses you, he blesses me. I know God is with you, Jacob. I know God is with you. So I'd like you to stay around and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to arrange wages for you. We're going to move you out of the slave class and put you, you know, on a regular paycheck. And now you got to read Genesis because some of these things are over here and you got to see. But God had visited Jacob in a dream and told Jacob, "I'll give you all the spotted and the speckled and the brown sheep." They calls them cattle, but I'll give them to you. He had told him in a dream, I'll give them to you. So Jacob takes the covenant, God at his word. Now we're thinking these sheep ain't valuable, but these were the most valuable sheep. The speckled sheep were the most valuable. You know why? Because they went but 1 or 2 born a year. They were odd. And you know the odd is worth the money. So Jacob says to Laban, you give me the spotted and the speckled sheep, brown ones. Give all that's in the flock right now. And they look at the flock, vast flock, and they ain't but 4 or 5 of these sheep out there. So, I mean, it ain't going to cost Laban nothing. Take them. And Jacob says, but all that are born from now on, they'll be mine. Laban says, man, this dude is the dumbest of dumb. Talk about a sucker. I got him for 20 years of free labor, and now he wants to work for the spotted and the speckled sheep, and there ain't but 2 or 3 of them born a year? Man, this is great. What an idiot. See, he's laughing. You know, I can hear him again. Woo! Yeah. So Jacob, he knew God was a covenant God here. And so he goes out, and I'm not trying to go there, I'm just telling you the story. He goes and takes some poplar sticks, some hazel and chestnut tree sticks, and peels some stripes in them down and puts them in the gutter where the water trough was. And when them sheep would come over there and look at them things, they start having spotted and speckled babies. And it was the strongest sheep of the flock that started producing the speckled sheep. Not the weak ones, it was the strong ones. 6 years roll by. Jacob is starting to roll in it. Now he's becoming a very, very rich man. The blessing of God is upon him, and Laban just can't seem to cheat him anymore. The woos is gone. But remember I told you it was strength against strength. It's Jacob against Laban. It's Laban against Jacob. Laban wins. Jacob wins, right? You see this tug of war. That was the life of Jacob. Do y'all ever feel like that, a tug of war? Sometimes I'm winning. Sometimes I'm losing. Now, Laban's starting to get mad now, and I'm almost finished here. Laban's starting to get angry. He's getting threatened. He sees the flock of Jacob. All the valuable sheep are getting bigger than his own flock. And I would love to give you all these verses. Genesis 31, verse 14 through 16. When Rachel and Leah kind of come to him, I want you to understand that Laban had other sons. Now the problem was, they're getting aggravated. They're getting mad at Jacob because they're thinking, this guy is getting all the inheritance and there won't be none left for us. So Dad, you need to do something about Jacob over here. Yeah, so this is what's going on. So Laban's getting mad. Laban's family's getting mad because Jacob is getting everything. So there's a lot of strife and stuff going on here. So God speaks to Jacob in a dream and says, Jacob's time for you to go home. Go back to the promised land. Go back to the land of covenant. Now Jacob would be around 60-some years old. His youngest son, Joseph, would be around 6 years old. So he says, I'm going home, but I'm not telling Laban. Because he knows... Jacob knows Laban. He knows Laban's already ticked off at him. So he says, there'll be a fight. So Jacob gets his wives, he gets his kids, he gets his flocks, and he says, let's go. Laban is off shearing sheep. He'll be gone for about 3 days shearing sheep. He won't even know. So it's like a small city moving out. Vast flocks, possessions, kids, tents, servants, handmaids, wives. And they leave. As they get ready to leave, Rachel runs into the house of Laban, her dad, and steals his gods. She goes in there and steals his gods. Sneaks in. Hides them in her camel bag. She's got more reason for that than what you know. Because the law of that land said the person who owned those little gods had a share in the inheritance. So she took them not only because she believed partly in them, but she wanted insurance for her husband. So we'll do both. Right? We'll keep law and grace. We'll do both. We're going to cover ourselves. We're going to cover ourselves right here. So they're traveling as fast as they can, and they get away from Laban. Laban comes back home. He realizes Jacob is gone, and he is in a rage. He goes to his house to pray to his gods. Opens up the God room of the house, and guess what? They're gone. Now he's really ticked off. My daughters are gone, my grandkids are gone, all my money in my flock is gone, and my gods are gone. He's outrageous. He brings his family together, his sons together, and they go out in hot pursuit. And when Laban gets within striking distance, God comes to Laban in a dream. And you can read this in Genesis 31:24. Basically what he says is, Laban, hands off Jacob. Better not lay a hand on him. Because if you touch Jacob, you touch me. Because we're in covenant. Whoever blesses Jacob, I bless. Whoever curses him, I curse. So I'm telling you, Laban, you better not lay a hand on him. Now Laban comes, he's always, he shows up, you know, like he's a schemer, and he shows up and he says, oh, there, Jacob, why did you leave so fast? I mean, I wanted to kiss my daughters by, I wanted to hug on my grandbabies, and I just came back and you run off so fast. But really his anger showed back up, and he says, really? Let me tell you what, it's in my hand to do you harm or not. And I'm very, very ticked off at you, and I want to know why you stink of left. But he said, I did come out here to get you. And if it wasn't for your God showing up and warning me, I'd thrash you right now. That's what he's saying. And he says, by the way, somebody stole my gods. And so we're going to search your stuff. And Jacob says, so search it. Lay it out here. Judge between me and thee. Nobody's took your God, so here goes Laban. He's searching, he's searching, he's searching. Now Rachel, she's over here sitting on the gods that she stole, hiding them. Jacob don't even know. Nobody knows she's got them. When he comes to Rachel, she says, she's sitting on top of him. She says, I'll just say it my way, Dad, don't make me move. I got a headache. She's sitting on the gods. Rachel carried those gods on into Canaan, and we'll have trouble with them gods on in the future, but we'll get to that in another story. So they go on and they make a covenant. He doesn't find the gods, so they make a covenant. Rachel or Jacob and Laban. And basically what he says is, the Lord watch between me and thee when we're parted. What I've heard people use that, but what that covenant meant was, Laban, I don't trust you as far as I can throw you. And I know as soon as my back is turned, you're going to do everything and you can to break this covenant. So I'm calling on Jehovah God to watch over you to make sure that you adhere to this covenant. You can come no farther. This is it. As far as you go. So Jacob, now remember where they're at. They're up here. Jacob was trying to get back down to the promised land. Up here is where Laban is at. So now Jacob is leaving. A covenant has been made. He's leaving Laban. He's beginning to know a dread and an anxiety like he's never felt before. Because he knows Esau is there going to kill him. Now think, he's got all these wives, kids, flock. So he left off, everything was pretty easy peasy. But now 10 times more is at stake. He's going back to the covenant promised inheritance, but he knows Esau's there. 20 years ago, Esau said, I'm going to kill you because you stole my blessing. And this is where I'm going to leave you with this part of this verse, where we're going to pick up next week. Genesis 32. And Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. That's Genesis 32:1. Now let me say it this way. Jacob went on his way, and there was great, great, great dread and anxiety upon Jacob. You with me? Now, I know it takes us a long time to go through these stories, guys, because I want you to feel these stories. I want you to get in them and see what's going on in these stories so that you'll understand why Jacob wrestled, because next week, the Ric Flair is coming out, and there's going to be a great wrestling match. all of us participated in that wrestling match. Okay? So, I'm going to get out of the way.